name is Silly, and welcome back to the Little Reader's Corner. I just saw The Crimes of Grindelwald. So, first off, let's start by saying represent. Let's start from the beginning. So I picked up my friend Amy, and then we headed straight to the IMAX showing of The Crimes of Grindelwald. This is just the trailers before it and the ads. Okay, so we were just sitting there having a jolly good time, and we're both Hufflepuffs, by the way. And we're just, decked out in all of our Hufflepuff gear, and there are just people all around us who are just there for the fun, I guess. Then an ad pops up for the Fantasy Movie League, and they had like a special thing going on. If you do really well this week in Fantasy Movie League, then you get a signed Harry Potter book with the signatures of Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert Grint. So of course, me and my friend are freaking out. We're like, oh my god, that's actually like really cool. Like, what the hell? We're actually gonna really try for this. And then this ad ends by saying, participate, don't be a Hufflepuff. And we're both like, did anyone else hear and see that? Like, they literally said, don't be a Hufflepuff with like spoken words and it written on the screen. And we're both like, excuse me, you are ostracizing an entire fourth of the population? How dare you? And second off, it doesn't even make any sense. What do you mean, don't be a Hufflepuff? A Hufflepuff would download the app just to be nice, just to help him out, you know? What the heck? Also, like, this ad came in front of a movie that is all about Hufflepuff power and all about how cool it is to be a Hufflepuff, and Hufflepuffs are awesome too. And Eddie Redmayne did a whole campaign about how Hufflepuffs are nice and great people and it's cool to be a Hufflepuff. So I just don't understand. So that was my little tangent before I get into Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. First, just generally looking at this movie from a perspective of a kind of super mega nerd dork, I think they did a great job. I think it was a great movie. I really appreciate the amount of work that went into this movie, but I always stay for the credits, and I think it's so important to see all the people who have worked on these huge, massive, there were a lot of stunt people, there were a lot of visual effects designers and people who worked on the visual effects, and I think that it was done very well. I mean, great shout out to J.K. Rowling, of course, for writing the script, and then David Yates for being the director, and James Newton Howard for doing the music again. He is just a god with music. And all of the fantastic people who put this movie together. So, there you go. Now, I don't even know if I can get into discussing this movie. I need to reread this, and then I literally got this right after, so I could first off check something that gets thrown into the end of the movie. If you've seen the movie, you know that there is a huge thing that gets thrown out there, and it's, related to Dumbledore and Credence, and didn't see that one coming because whatever they threw out there doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna start with Leta Lestrange. Okay. First off, it's supposed to be pronounced Lestrange, so I'm a little confused why all of a sudden it's Lestrange. Bellatrix Lestrange, and it's I believe, a French originating name, so Lestrange, and they made a big point in this movie to pronounce it specifically Lestrange based off of how Leta was treated as a child in Hogwarts. I think that her character was very important in this movie, and not in that I found it very important, but she was an important piece in this thing. They make it a big point in the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them to show that Newt has this backstory with Leta Lestrange, and something went down between them, and something's weird, and there might be some romantic history there. Okay, so flash forward, I think it was 3 months. I believe it's 3 months to what goes on here, and then we find out that Newt's brother Theseus is engaged to Leta, but him and Leta are kind of in love, or they had like a love thing going on. So it's never explained why all of a sudden she's with his brother, Theseus. Like that is just a kind of disaster. Like no wonder they have a brother feud going on and that their relationship is a disaster. Like that, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, what is going on there? Oh my goodness. And Leta and Newt were best friends in Hogwarts. It looks like they had this kind of connection because Newt is like an outcast because he prefers hanging out with animals and creatures and not really humans, and he doesn't really understand humans. And Leta just has always been the strange one and just always kind of ostracized by her classmates. So they kind of understand each other, and she has her own issues going on, which we find out later is like, oof. But she is a main focus throughout this movie. I think her story is definitely important, and it has a lot to do with what is going on. But then towards the end, it feels like a lot has been revolving around her because she's very interconnected with everyone. But because of that, there's a lot of less screen time for a lot of different characters. For instance, Tina doesn't have a lot of screen time. Queenie does somehow, and I think Queenie is going to be a really big part in the next movie, especially with how it ended. So that's just my thoughts on Leta. Whole weird situation going on there. And in the end, when she says, "I love you," of course they made it so she says, "I love you" in the direction of Newt and Theseus. So both of them are like, me? And then she dies. Like there's this whole build. Bellatrix is from the House of Black, so her husband is from the Lestrange family. Lestrange. I don't even know what to say anymore. So I'm wondering who her husband's father is, because Leta is now dead, and Corvus, I think his name is Corvus. Check it here. Corvus died, apparently, which she thinks she killed him. And then her brother, who she thought died or had some mysterious thing that was like a huge part of why people always made fun of her and she was ostracized, and why she always had a bunch of issues was because she thought her brother was dead. I don't think that was explained. Like, they never really went into it. He was just kind of there, and she's like, "Brother?" We all saw that coming, but weird. That's my part on Leta. Queenie. So we start off by feeling like it's weird between Jacob and Queenie, and then, you know, we find out that she's put him under some kind of enchantment or spell. I think she gave him a love potion because that's really what it felt like, just because she wanted to get married to him. We all know Queenie has her stuff. She's so I understand how the events ended. I understand why Queenie went over to the dark side, because she feels like her own side has betrayed her, but I feel like the development wasn't fully there for the audience to see it. I can see it and I can understand like her arc, how that happened for her, but also since every character got so little screen time, because there were so many new introductions, which I think was a key part in this movie, because it didn't really go into the crimes of Grindelwald. It just kind of set up, I think, for the future movies, because there are 5 total. So we've already got 2 down, we still have 3 to go. So the first one was an introduction. Now here's more of the setup, and then things are really going to start happening, I think, in the next 3. So I understand why they couldn't make it that long of a movie. There wasn't a lot really going on There was a lot going on, which is the thing, but there wasn't like a big arc to like a big explosion. I mean, technically there was a big explosion. I hope you know what I'm saying here. So, Queenie's arc definitely made sense. It made sense, but also it didn't make sense because of Jacob. Jacob is the whole missing link here. So I think because she felt like they were not on the same side and they spent a lot of the movie apart because they couldn't be together, and she felt like he was the only person that should understand her, but he didn't, and she couldn't connect with her sister and she couldn't find her sister. And then in the end, they finally found Queenie, but it was way too late, and it was way too late for Jacob to intervene again. So I understand what they were trying to do, and I understand that it's building to something greater, but I think they needed one more plot point in her arc to really show her kind of cracking. Because when she's in the same room as Gellert Grindelwald, it does not feel like he has enough of a speech and enough motivators to fully bring her onto his side. Because she just leaves after that and then decides to come to the meeting, and she gives him her audience, which I think, like, she lets him speak out and she listens to what he has to say, which I think is really important, because everyone is very quick to decide that Gellert Grindelwald is evil. He is, but the whole point of where he and Dumbledore came from is that they both wanted to do this greater good. They were wrong, I believe, in what they were trying to do, and they wanted to do like a cleansing and something like that, which was not the right idea. But where they stem from the greater good is an overarching, it makes sense. They want to help their people. Not well executed, does not go how it should, but I get it. So, I think it's important that Queenie gives him her audience and listens to what he has to say. After hearing what he has to say, like, he is a great speechwriter, or he has great speech, and he's able to convince the people of what he's saying, and he backpedaled on some of his points, like he doesn't think that Muggles are that bad, and he doesn't think a lot of these things. Then again, I think it's important that she listened to him. After that, she should have left. But it's always important to listen out to people's ways of thinking, because you never can be sure that you're in the right spot. So that's my point on Queenie. I don't know if I have any more to say. I'm gonna stop this right now. Boop. Part 1 done.